CEOs, politicians, and figures of immense power have long whispered their devotion to a force older than empires, older than kings. They call him Saturn. But who or what is this entity? And why do those who control the world revere him? Saturn is no ordinary god. He is a symbol, a shadow, a cosmic archetype that has fascinated humans for millennia. From the fertile plains of Babylon to the courts of Rome, from Greek myths to secretive esoteric traditions, Saturn embodies time, authority, limitation, and hidden power. But there is a darker side, a devourer, a disciplinarian, a force that demands obedience and punishes hubris. In this journey, we will explore Saturn across cultures, tracing his evolution from myth to archetype, examining how he shapes human imagination, and revealing why the elites of today still honor his power, often in ways the world never sees. In Roman mythology, Saturn was the god of agriculture, wealth, and time. He presided over the Golden Age, a period of abundance, peace, and harmony, before being overthrown by his son, Jupiter. The Romans celebrated Saturnalia, a festival of feasting, role reversals, and temporary liberation, a ritual hinting at the tension between freedom and authority. Yet, beneath these festivals lay darker undercurrents of fear and power. In Greek mythology, Saturn is Cronus, the titan who devoured his own children to prevent being overthrown. This image of the devouring father is both literal and symbolic, a force of time, mortality, and inescapable authority. Cronus embodies the terrifying inevitability of fate, the cycle of birth and destruction, and the ruthless preservation of power. Ancient Greece was a world where myth and ritual intertwined with life. Evidence suggests that secretive cults and esoteric societies existed, particularly those devoted to the titans and chthonic deities like Cronus. These groups were rumored to perform rites, including human and child sacrifices, acts intended to honor, appease, or draw power from the devouring forces symbolized by Cronus. The rituals reflected a recognition that mortality, authority, and cosmic order demanded acknowledgement, and sometimes extreme offerings. The symbolism is clear. Cronus consumed his children, not just as a story of fear, but as a reflection of humanity's attempt to understand mortality, cycles of time, and the cost of ambition. Secret societies enacted these extremes, testing devotion and confronting the boundary between life and death. Philosophers like Plato warned of unchecked ambition and the corrupting potential of power, lessons mirrored in the myth of Cronus. Even in Rome, Saturn retained this duality. He was both nurturer and devourer, a god who provided abundance yet demanded sacrifice. Saturn's myths warn that power is never free from cost, that authority contains seeds of destruction, and that the line between reverence and terror is often thin. Through these myths, we see the first signs of Saturn's archetype, a god who is creator, destroyer, teacher, and tyrant. From secretive Greek cults to public Roman festivals, Saturn has always reflected humanity's awe, fear, and attempts to comprehend the inescapable force of time and authority. Long before the myths of Greece and Rome, the Babylonians venerated Cronus/Enlil, a god who presided over cosmic order, fate, and the cycles of the heavens. Enlil was both creator and enforcer, a deity who governed natural law, social hierarchy, and the rhythms of life and death. He rewarded order, but he demanded obedience, and punishment for defiance could be severe. Here, Saturn's archetype takes on a distinctly darker aspect. Archaeological and textual evidence suggests that some Babylonian sects performed esoteric rituals and sacrifices in honor of Enlil and associated planetary forces. Children, livestock, and occasionally adults were offered in ritual to appease the god and secure protection, fertility, or cosmic favor. These acts were deeply symbolic, reflecting the belief that the devouring force of Saturn demanded both literal and spiritual offerings to maintain the balance of life and time. Babylonian astrologers linked Saturn to the cycles of destiny, authority, and the passage of time. Sacrifices were both literal and allegorical, symbolizing the inevitable cost of existence and the cyclical nature of creation and destruction. Saturn, as the cosmic regulator, required acknowledgement of mortality and human limitation. The dark rites highlight a recurring theme: reverence intertwined with fear. By appeasing the god through ritual, worshippers sought not only protection, but alignment with the forces that govern life, death, and cosmic order. These rites were often conducted in secret temples, accessible only to initiates, reflecting the esoteric knowledge reserved for a select few. Just as Cronus devoured his children to preserve authority, Enlil demanded offerings as a reminder that power, life, and destiny are never without cost. These rituals were enactments of the archetype itself, the devouring god, the inexorable force, the shadow overseeing both order and destruction. Even in Babylon's sprawling cities, Saturn's shadow loomed. Kings and priests claimed his favor to legitimize authority, while the population remained bound by invisible chains of fear, ritual, and cosmic law. Human life, in the eyes of Saturn, was transient, tools for the maintenance of a universal order beyond human comprehension. This duality, protector and destroyer, nurturer and devourer, echoes through every culture that revered Saturn. Babylon framed the archetype as both necessary and terrifying, a reminder that life is measured not only in growth and abundance, but in obedience, sacrifice, and recognition of limits. By the time early Christianity emerged, the archetype of Saturn had already been woven deeply into human consciousness. Gnostics, mystics, and esoteric thinkers recognized Saturn not merely as a planet or deity, but as a cosmic principle, a devouring, limiting force governing matter, time, and human ignorance. In Gnostic cosmology, this force was often linked to the demiurge, the blind craftsman who created the material world and imprisoned divine sparks within it. Many Gnostic texts explicitly reference Saturn, sometimes through coded language, allegory, or symbolic imagery. He appears as the tyrant who devours, the ruler of cycles, the shadow constraining human potential. Liberation, they taught, came not from obedience or ritual, but from awakening to hidden knowledge, gnosis, and recognizing the divine spark within. Much of this knowledge was suppressed. The early church, fearing the implications, hid or destroyed texts that spoke of Saturn, the demiurge, and the cosmic forces controlling humanity. Entire libraries of esoteric wisdom, like those found in the Nag Hammadi codices, remained buried for centuries. The messages they contained about divine sparks, the illusions of matter, and the devouring powers of Saturn were inaccessible to most. Only recently have scholars and seekers begun uncovering these lost texts, revealing a side of early Christianity that was daring, mystical, and profoundly subversive. Gnosticism brought back truths hidden for centuries. The material world is a prison. Ignorance is enforced by cosmic powers, and liberation is achieved through knowledge, not ritual or obedience. Saturn, as revealed by Gnostic texts, is the eternal force of limitation, constraint, and hidden control. By recognizing him, the Gnostics argued humanity could awaken, see beyond the false structures imposed by the demiurge, and reclaim spiritual sovereignty. The archetype remains consistent, devouring, limiting, and yet offering the path to transcendence for those who understand him. Saturn's shadow did not vanish with the fall of empires, the decline of Babylon, or the suppression of Gnostic texts. Instead, it persisted, hidden, symbolic, and potent. Today, whispers suggest that political leaders, corporate magnates, and global elites invoke Saturn in ritual, symbolism, and homage. The archetype, the devourer, the disciplinarian, the cosmic regulator, remains attractive to those who wield immense power. Some secret societies and occult traditions see him as a gatekeeper, a deity of order, consequence, and hidden knowledge. By honoring Saturn, they align with a force that governs authority, hierarchy, and the inevitability of cycles. Symbols associated with Saturn appear repeatedly in elite architecture, ceremonial objects, and public iconography. The black cube, hexagonal motifs, and planetary symbolism hint at reverence for boundaries, cycles, and control. In temples, boardrooms, and ritual spaces, these symbols mark allegiance to Saturn as master of time, discipline, and cosmic law. Modern Gnostic insights echo here. The same Saturn who devoured children, imposed cycles, and constrained human potential centuries ago now resonates in systems of control, governments, finance, and global hierarchies. Knowledge hidden by early Gnostics is reflected in our reality. Authority often veils power, restriction governs freedom, and unseen forces shape outcomes. Yet Saturn's lessons are not only for the few. As the Gnostics revealed, the devouring force is also internal. Limitations, attachments, and unawareness reside in each of us. Understanding Saturn, observing his cycles, and recognizing his symbolic presence allows individuals to reclaim autonomy, awareness, and clarity amidst imposed structures. Saturn is not merely a god of the past. He is an archetype bridging ancient myth, hidden knowledge, and modern power. Across cultures, from Babylon to Greece, Rome, India, and secret Gnostic texts, he represents authority, discipline, and the shadow forces shaping life and time. The question lingers: when the powerful bow to Saturn, are they merely honoring tradition, or are they engaging with an eternal archetype that enforces order, consumes weakness, and reveals the limits of human freedom? Saturn remains, as he always has, a mirror of mortality, power, and consequence. The devourer is both warning and teacher. Respect him, understand him, and recognize the patterns he sets, or risk being consumed by the cycles he governs.